What if everything you believed about the person you love most in the world turned out to be a lie? What if the truth was hidden right in front of you, waiting to shatter everything you thought was real? Today's story will leave you questioning trust, love, and the power of seeing beyond appearances. So, before we begin, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because stories like this one will move your heart and stay with you long after the video ends. The story begins in the towering mansion of a man named Alexander Cole. To the world, Alexander was untouchable, a millionaire whose empire stretched across industries, a man whose word carried power and whose wealth could open any door. But behind the walls of his marble estate lived his most vulnerable secret, his only daughter, Emma. Since the age of 5, Alexander believed Emma had gone blind due to a rare degenerative disease. He shielded her from the world, guarded her like a fragile diamond, and tried to build her life with every luxury money could buy. Emma grew up surrounded by chandeliers, expensive art, and gilded staircases, but inside she felt trapped in darkness. Her father loved her, but his love came with control. He rarely let her leave, convinced she couldn't survive the outside world. He never noticed the way Emma's head turned when sunlight streamed through the windows, or how her fingertips paused when they brushed across a painting she wasn't supposed to see. It was Maria the maid who noticed first. Maria wasn't like the other staff who came and went with silent obedience. She had a gentle soul, worn by hardship but strengthened by compassion. She had worked in Alexander's mansion for nearly a year, quietly caring for Emma, reading books aloud, helping her walk through the halls, and sitting beside her when loneliness crept in. Maria had grown to love Emma as if she were her own child. One summer afternoon, Maria was dusting the grand library while Emma sat nearby, supposedly listening to music. A ray of sunlight broke through the tall windows, and Maria saw Emma lift her head sharply, her eyes following the dust particles dancing in the light. It was subtle but undeniable. Maria froze, her heart pounding. She whispered softly, "Emma, can you see that?" Emma stiffened, her hands trembling around the arm of the chair. At first, she shook her head, denying it, but then tears welled in her eyes. "Maria, promise me you won't tell my father," she whispered. The secret spilled out. Emma could see. Not perfectly, not in the sharp clarity others enjoyed, but she wasn't blind. She had hidden it for years. Maria was stunned. Why would a child pretend to be blind? Why would she live a lie? Emma explained through broken sobs. When she was younger, the doctors had told Alexander her vision would fail completely. Out of fear, Alexander treated her as if she were already blind. He stopped sending her to school, built her world inside the mansion, and poured his guilt and protection over her like chains. Emma was too scared to shatter his belief. She thought if she told him the truth, he would be angry, or worse, disappointed in her. Over time, the lie became her cage. Maria's heart ached. She wanted to march straight to Alexander and tell him everything. But she also saw the fear in Emma's eyes, the desperation to keep her father's fragile love intact. So Maria made a choice. Instead of exposing Emma, she quietly began to help her live in the truth she was too afraid to reveal. She brought her into the gardens under the guise of exercise, teaching her to recognize colors and flowers. She guided her hand over books and encouraged her to listen as her eyes scanned the words. Slowly Emma began to blossom, her laughter brighter than it had ever been. But secrets cannot stay buried forever. One night at a lavish dinner party, Alexander invited a group of business associates. Emma was asked to play the piano as she often did, her blindness making her talent all the more remarkable. As Emma sat at the piano bench, the chandelier lights reflected off the polished keys, and for a split second she adjusted her seat by sight, not by touch. One of the guests noticed. A cruel smirk crossed his face, and he whispered loudly enough for the room to hear, "Blind? Or is this all just a performance for sympathy?" The room went silent. Alexander's jaw tightened, his pride wounded. He demanded an explanation. Emma froze, unable to speak, and Maria stepped forward, her voice trembling but firm. "She can see, sir. Not fully, but enough. She's been too afraid to tell you." The revelation struck Alexander like a thunderclap. He stared at his daughter, his empire of certainty crumbling in an instant. His anger was not at Emma, but at himself. For years he had smothered her in his love, building walls instead of giving her wings. For the first time, Alexander realized his wealth had blinded him more than Emma's supposed condition ever had. That night, father and daughter spoke for hours. Emma confessed her fear, her longing to live freely, to walk outside without guards hovering, to see the world with her own eyes. Alexander wept, ashamed that his protection had become her prison. But in that pain grew a promise. He vowed to change, not as a millionaire controlling his daughter's life, but as a father learning to trust her strength. With Maria's help, Emma began a new chapter. She enrolled in classes, walked through bustling streets, and painted her first canvas of the sunrise she had secretly admired for years. Alexander supported her every step, realizing that true love is not about keeping someone safe at all costs. It is about giving them the freedom to fall, to rise, and to live. By the end, Alexander stood on the porch of his mansion, watching Emma laugh with Maria in the garden. For the first time, he didn't see a fragile girl in need of saving. He saw a young woman, brave and alive, who had taught him the greatest lesson of his life. That vision is not about the eyes, but about the heart's ability to see the truth. And that's the message this story leaves with you. Today, love is not control, and protection is not confinement. Sometimes, the people we try hardest to shelter are the ones who just need us to believe in their strength. So, if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that love means setting people free. Because just like Emma, we all deserve the chance to truly see the world.